Welcome to Earthquake Thursdays, and today we'll be covering RMS Titanic disaster. So the Titanic sinks in April 15, 1912. At 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the British ocean liner Titanic sinks into the North Atlantic Ocean 400 miles south of Newfoundland, Canada. The massive ship, which carried 2,200 passengers and crew, had struck an iceberg 2.5 hours before. On April 10th, the RMS Titanic, one of the largest and most luxurious ocean liners ever built, departed Southampton, England on its maiden voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. The Titanic was designated and designed by the Irish shipbuilder William Peary and built in Belfast, and was thought to be the world's fastest ship. It spanned 183 feet from stern to bow, and its hull was divided into 16 compartments that was presumed to be watertight. Because of 4 of these compartments could be flooded without causing a critical loss of buoyancy, the Titanic was considered unsinkable. While leaving port, the ship came within a couple of feet of the steamer New York, but passed safely by, causing a general sigh of relief from the passengers massed on the Titanic decks. On its first journey across the high competitive Atlantic Fury route, the ship carried about 2,200 passengers and crew. After stopping at Cherbourg, France and Queenstown, Ireland to pick up some final passengers, the massive vessel set out at full speed for New York City. However, just before midnight on April 14th, the RMS Titanic failed to divert its course from an iceberg and ruptured at least 5 of its hull compartments. These compartments filled with water and pulled down the bow of the ship, causing the Titanic compartments. Because the Titanic compartments were not capped at the top, water from the ruptured compartments filled each succeeding compartment, causing the bow to sink and the stern to be raised up to an almost vertical position above the water. Then the Titanic broke in half, and at about 2:20 a.m. on April 15, stern and bow sank to the ocean floor. Because of shortage of lifeboats and the lack of satisfactory emergency procedures, more than 1,500 people went down in the sinking ship or froze to death in the icy North Atlantic waters. Most of the 700 or so survivors were women and children. A number of notable American and British citizens died in the tragedy, including the noted British journalist William Thomas Stead and heirs to the Strauss, Astors and Goheim fortunes. 1 hour and 20 minutes later, Titanic went down. The Cunard liner Carpathia arrived. The survivors in the lifeboats were brought aboard, and a handful of others were pulled out of the water. It was later discovered that the Leyland liner Californian had been less than 20 miles away at the time of the accident, but had failed to hear the Titanic's distress signals because its radio operator was off duty. Announcements of details of the tragedy led to outrage on both sides of the Atlantic. In the disaster's aftermath, the first international convention for safety of the life at sea was held on 1913. Rules were adopted requiring that every ship have lifeboats, space for each person on board, and that lifeboat drills be held. An international ice patrol was established to monitor icebergs on the North Atlantic ship lines. It was also required that ships maintain a 24-hour radio watch. On September 1, 1984, a joint US-French expedition located the wreck of the Titanic lying on the ocean floor at a depth of about 13,000 feet. The ship was explored by manned and unmanned submarines and submersibles, which shed new light on the details of its sinking. This was today's Earthquake Thursdays, where we covered the RMS Titanic disaster. If you want to know more about disasters that happened in the past, present or possible future, then join me Thursdays, where we will be prepared for the most worst case scenarios. I will see you in the next Earthquake Thursdays episode on every Thursdays. Ciao for now. Thank you for watching. If you like my video, why don't you subscribe?